Hey, Foods That Heal You friends, Catherine here, certified nutrition consultant. And today we're going to talk about hydration, which is really step one in clean eating and how to get started. So I'm going to go through 4 different categories here. Number 1 is going to be the types of water and what's good, better, best. The second thing is going to be electrolytes, adding electrolytes to your water, what you need, what you don't really need, what are you wasting your money, go through that. Number 3 is going to be how much water and when to drink it. And number 4 is going to be foods that are hydrating. All right, so let's go ahead and start with number 1, and that's the types of water. So let's start with the least favorable, which would be tap water. Tap water is going to have parasites, pesticides, herbicides, drug residue. It's just going to be very unclean. Chlorine, fluoride, all of these things in it that are extremely unhealthy for the body. Some areas of the states are better or worse, but none of it is really good. So you're going to want to at least filter your water to some degree. The first option would be filtered water with carbon filters, and that's like your refrigerator filter, your sink filter. The problem with those is they only remove the chlorine. That's it, nothing else. So you still are going to have the pesticides, herbicides, medicine residue that people dump that doesn't get cleared out. There's bacteria. There's a lot of things that are still in the water. So the next level would be to purify with reverse osmosis. And you can get a tap on your sink. You can even take gallon jugs to the store and refill them with reverse osmosis. So that's really one of the best options. Distilled would be in that same category. You can buy distilled water. And so that if you don't have the tap on your sink, that's a good option. And that's what you're going to want to be drinking. And then we'll talk about in the next step how to add back in those minerals that you're missing. And you might be thinking, what about spring water? Spring water is great. The problem with spring water is how do you get it? Because you're going to buy it in a plastic bottle at the store typically, and that's going to have those microplastics in it. That's not good. And then also, where's that spring water coming from? Is it a good source? How can you guarantee that it's not tap water in those, right? So I personally go with reverse osmosis or distilled. That's one of the best options because it's going to be the cleanest, even though it strips everything out. So step number 2, now that we've clarified that something that's purified or reverse osmosis cleaned out, number 2 is going to be, can we add those minerals back in? And I have a few things back here that are going to help with that. So what I do is the first thing, and the least expensive and you get most bang for your buck, is going to be unrefined sea salt. What I like is, and there's different types, there's pink salt, gray salt. I like the unrefined Redmond's sea salt because it's not contaminated in the oceans. Like pink salt can have contamination. It's high in iron. Gray salt can have contamination. I prefer Redmond's real salt here, and you can see it has color to it. If your salt is pure white and it says sea salt, it's still been ionized. It's still, iodinized. It's still been stripped out of all the minerals. The real salt is going to have a little color to it because you're going to see the minerals in it. So when you put some of this in your water, you're going to be remineralizing your water naturally. And salt, although people think it raises blood pressure, it actually balances blood pressure because it helps the cell take in and put out nutrients. So salt, real salt with the minerals the way God intended, will help nutrients get into your cell, and then potassium will help the toxins come out of your cell. So there's this give and take, there's, in and out of the cell. And so you need salt, you absolutely need salt. In fact, when an ambulance comes to someone's house because they're having an emergency, what's the first thing they typically do is they put an IV in, and it's saline. It's a load of salt that they're dumping into that person's body. So if it was so bad for blood pressure, why would they do that? All right, so that's the first thing. You can also add something called Redmond's real salt that's a Relight. So electrolyte powders, you've seen LMNT, Relight. There's a bunch on the market now. You have to be really careful though that they don't have natural flavors. And honestly, the only reason for this, in my opinion, would be is if you want flavor. So Relight's a good, pretty clean one. I like this one. LMNT is good as well, but you do pay a lot for basically just fancy salt, for the real salt. and a tiny bit of microscopic amount of potassium and magnesium. So my first choice, if you're wanting flavor, would be Relight or LMNT. you are going to pay more than just putting salt in your water. And I forgot to mention how much sodium. The general rule is a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt, unrefined sea salt, per quart of water. And then you can just divide that up through the day. Also, you can do apple cider vinegar. Raw with the mother apple cider vinegar is really good. It won't necessarily remineralize a lot of your water. It will add some potassium, but this is more of a cleanser than it is a hydrator, okay? But a lot of people add that or lemon to their water. It's more cleansing and detoxifying, so it's great. It won't really remineralize your water. Okay, so let's go back to, and then, I'm gonna go back to the mineralizing your water. And magnesium, pretty much everyone is deficient in magnesium. This is the magnesium that I like because it is 99% absorbable. And it's not glycinate, which is really popular right now. The type of magnesium isn't really important. It's more about what your body is absorbing. The reason glycinate's so popular is because it absorbs better. But even compared to this nanotechnology here, which was invented by an engineer, this will 99% absorb. But if you take a dropper full of like Mega Mag or a glycinate, you're only going to get 20% absorption. So think about that. One dropper of this, you get 99% of what it says. One dropper of something else or pills of something else, you get only 20%, at the most 20% absorption. So you get way more for your money, and this is really easy to add to your water. I add it to my water every day. It alkalizes my water, it remineralizes my water, and it has fulvic minerals in it, which again helps the cell receive the water and the magnesium and the nutrients that it needs. Fulvic minerals, you can Google that, are extremely important, and that is added into this formula. Okay, so that is it for electrolytes, adding electrolytes back in your water. Now, number 3 is gonna be how much water do I drink and when? The general rule is half of your body weight in fluid ounces. You weigh 150 pounds as an average person, 75 ounces of water. You never want to exceed 100 ounces a day. So 75 ounces of water, and tea is included in that. Actually, coffee, unless you're overdoing coffee, any liquid that you put in your body counts towards that 75 ounces. You don't want to, of course, drink 75 ounces of coffee or tea. You do want just plain water with electrolytes. But what I'm saying is if you drink your cup of coffee, that does count, because if you overhydrate, you will urinate out your magnesium, your salt, your good minerals. You'll urinate all of that out, and then you'll be depleted of minerals because you basically diluted them all. So you want to be careful how much you're drinking as well. Make sure you're getting kind of that balance. All right, when do you want to be drinking these waters? An hour before meals or 2 hours after meals. If you drink your water with your meals, it's going to dilute your digestive juices and you will not be able to digest your food as well. I personally wake up in the morning and I start out with my salt water with the magnesium in it. First thing, 16 to 20 ounces, and then wait an hour or more. Have your breakfast or your lunch or however you're doing that. And then 2 hours later, now you can sip down, to swallow your food, sip on your water. That's not a big deal. You just don't want to be drinking a lot at that time. And you do want to spread it out throughout the day a bit. All right. And then the last thing is foods that hydrate. We can become dehydrated simply from eating a lot of foods that are drying. For example, grains are extremely dehydrating. Oats, cereals, breads, cookies, pastas, whether it's gluten or non-gluten, doesn't matter. It's going to be dehydrating if it is a flour, a grain. You want more fruits and vegetables because, believe it or not, fruits and vegetables, they have distilled water in them because the plant is designed by God to filter that water so that it has clean hydration in it. So if you're having, for example, troubles with dehydration or constipation, eating a higher diet with produce, whether it's cabbage, broccoli, oranges, lemons, apples, whatever the case may be, produce is going to help hydrate you, and that is water too. Now, doesn't necessarily count towards your water intake when you're calculating that, but it's going to help hydrate you in a much superior way because it's nature's hydration. Okay, so those are the 4 things. Recapping here: types of water. Number 2, adding electrolytes. Number 3, how much and when to drink it. And number 4, hydrating diet. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you up in the next video on other tips to help you with clean eating.